Do tariffs cause inflation? Now, inflation is often mischaracterized as prices going up. Now, prices going up are the easiest way to measure inflation, but they are the result of inflation, not the actual inflation itself. Inflation occurs when money is created or credit extended, or money that was previously unavailable flows into the system and generates demand that exceeds supply. And this is kind of what we saw during COVID when the um, basically everyone was being given a check to go buy things, and lots of people were prevented from going out and making things. So, too much money chasing too few goods. So, is that kind of quibbling or picking nits? Not really. Differentiating between inflation and prices going up helps you determine who is to blame for what is happening and how to plan for the future. Inflation takes away buying power, which most of the time is permanent. And there are some cases where innovation can improve and the price on select products comes down, but for the most part, once prices go up, they stay up, unless there's something in particular causing greater effects than that. For instance, like eggs were only partially a fault of inflation, whereas the price going up was actually due to a shortage due to overculling. So that's why eggs are coming down and a lot of other things aren't. Okay. Deflation can, and I'm saying deflation, can restore buying power. However, deflationary periods since World War II have been very rare and fleeting. Now, tariffs, on the other hand, impact select prices only as long as the tariff is in place. If a tariff is short lived, the impact is minimal. The second issue is energy prices. Inflation almost always is bound to impact energy, which has a doubling down effect on all prices. This is because there are energy inputs at all levels of production and delivery. Tariffs, depending on how they are applied, may not impact energy prices at all. Now, the biggest caveat of economics is the phrase, assuming all other things remain the same. Because of the complexity of economics, it's useful to isolate the effect we want to study, in this case, tariffs, and look at their impact while not conjecturing on all the other things that may impact it. However, this is only the first step in analysis. However, this first step is where usually most people stop because they have already got the answer they want, or they've come up with an answer that's applicable. So, are there mitigating factors to tariffs? So, yeah, if you place a tariff, the isolated result is the price of that item is going to go up. Are there things that could cause the tariff to be offset? First, the country with the tariffs against it may opt to eat all or part of the costs in order to protect their economy, their production, or their market share. They can opt to reduce profits or alternately reduce profits in one market while making up for it by offsetting in the other markets. As the majority of these tariffs are targeted by country rather than a general tariff, it's possible another domestic or foreign producer outside the target country could pick up the slack. This will allow products in the market that are more expensive than they are pre tariff, but potentially less than from the actual targeted country. So, in other words, if we somehow, let's say, double the price of something coming from China, India might sell us the same thing at only 50% higher than what the tariff against the Chinese was. So, thus, the price of the tariff is offset by somebody else being able to come into the market. Now, over time, scaled up production from domestic or non targeted foreign sources may eventually match prices from the pre tariff situation. In other words, if your tariffs pretty much shut down imports from one country, other countries and your own country taking over the production, once they're at a high rate of production, may be able to find cost savings in the fact that they're doing it and learning how to do it better and finding ways to make it cheaper, where they could actually bring it back down to a price that is at what it was before the tariff went in place. Another mitigating factor is energy costs. If the goal, and one of Trump's goals is reducing energy costs, if that is successful, that's going to benefit all producers, foreign and domestic, due to its multiplicative effect. Thus, by reducing energy around the world, a heavily targeted country like China could gain enough savings from cheaper energy to be able to eat more of the cost of their tariffs. And also, it may allow other producers to lower their costs significantly to basically make a product that maybe not quite as cheap as what the Chinese were making, but cheaper than what the tariff is affecting. Automation can and will have an impact. Plants relocating to avoid tariffs will not be as labor heavy as foreign factories. Thus, they will have cost savings built into them, being new and such. Another mitigating factor is wars ending. The Ukraine war has a massive impact on the world economy. It prevents large amounts of food and oil from entering the market. It has also driven up fertilizer prices, impacts food. Uh, that war ending would drop costs all around the world on many products. The Houthi Iran situation is adding 10 to 15% to shipping costs for certain routes. And as of me talking about this, that situation might be over. Not so sure yet. We'll find out. There's also a possibility of something known as the Jones Act ending. This would dramatically lower the cost of shipping within the US. I won't get into the details, but essentially, the Jones Act has pretty much killed the ability of cargo to be moved from one American port to another, and has also made it difficult to move up and down our vast navigable river and lake system. Water transport is significantly cheaper than any land route. If the Jones Act were repealed, it could introduce incredible domestic cost savings to production. There are also buying behaviors to consider as well. Much of the Chinese output is not really necessities, but really trinkets. And they do make some tech items that are craved by us, but they're not absolutely necessary. Some of this loss can be made up for by repairing what was previously considered too expensive to repair. We've gotten to the point where we've pretty much made everything disposable because too it's more expensive to repair it than it is to replace it. The tariffs may change that around, and a repair economy uh, may be able to prolong the life of these appliances so that we're not having to buy them as much, reducing some of the costs. Also, the secondhand goods market is most likely, Goodwill, etc., thrift stores are more likely to become much more heavily used in such a situation. This can offset the cost of the consumer to where the hit on them isn't as significant as just assuming that they have to pay the tariff. Now, ultimately, with a few exceptions, it appears that most of the tariffs are probably going to be temporary and were made to force bilateral negotiations at the expense of various world trade agreements. So, do tariffs cause inflation? By their very definition, no. Do tariffs cause prices to go up? Yes, in isolation. It remains to be seen how the mitigating factors will balance out on that equation. Will tariffs cause a recession? That's very possible. Depending on how much industry the US wants in its borders, is directly proportional to how much disruption this causes. The more disruption, the higher the likelihood of recession. And by that, what I mean is if the United States, so sometimes it's hard to understand what the actual goals of these tariffs are. Is the goal to bring back manufacturing to our shore, or is it to get better trade prices? Well, the more we insist on certain things being here, the more disruption we're going to have. It's just something that's going to come along. It's part of the price that's going to be paid for that tactic if that's what they have in mind. Now, whether such a recession is short and sharp versus drawn out really has not much to do with the tariffs as it does with what interventions the Fed or the government feel compelled to take. The more interventions they make, the longer the recession will be. Will this be a boon to the economy? It's hard to say at this point due to the amount of moving parts in play. It's pretty much a coin toss because so many different things are happening. Could this result in a depression? No. And I'll get into that probably in the next video. So, why is media saying tariffs cause inflation? Well, first, it's one of the few economic terms that Americans almost universally recognize, even if they only understand the surface implications of it. It's a brand word. It's like Pepsi or Coke. People see it and everyone can say inflation. Well, that's bad. Marketing works better when you use branded words rather than having to explain new terms. Why is the media universally against tariffs when 20 years ago many Democrats might have supported this? Well, first, of course, Orange Man say tariffs, tariffs bad. Second, tariffs, or excuse me, being tariff free or being close to it is really part of the backbone of the neoliberal order. Tariffs, as a tool, threaten to cripple or kill the current neoliberal order. So essentially, the information sphere is in defense mode of the current order. Tariffs are considered a threat to it. Most of the sponsors of legacy media, i.e., the advertisers, have Chinese supply chains. They don't want to end cheap goods and materials because it will force them to make capital investments and accept a lower profit level. All right, so I hope that gives you an overview of tariffs. And just to be clear, I am highly conflicted on them. On one hand, my libertarian reflexes say tariffs are really bad. But on the flip side, I do think things are out of whack. The question is our government smart enough to make the kind of decisions needed to make things better than they are now? And that remains to be seen. So, what do you think of these tariffs? Do you think they're going to be highly detrimental to the economy? Do you think they're permanent? Do you think they're a passing thing? Uh, what types, what do you think the goals are of the administration in doing this? Tell me in the comments below. Interested in hearing your opinion. Please smash the like button. If the YouTube algorithms brought you here and you're not a regular subscriber, look at my other titles. you'll find stuff you like, subscribe. And if you know someone who might find this interesting, you share it with them. All right, I appreciate you spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.